Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. I heard buenas noches, porteños. All right, what I'd like you to do is everybody take your thumb up, put it straight up in the air, please. Yo hablo poquito español. I'm sorry, pardon. Okay, put it against your chest and say the word be. It says working together is the way to be. Now take your fingers, put them to the side, and just say the syllable re. That's how we survive through hista. Good, now give me thumbs straight up in the air. Just say the word fun. Do the mitzvahs because it's lots of. Now give me the peace sign. Then peace will reign and the world will be one. So let's start from the beginning. Working together is the way to. That's how we survive through hista. Do the mitzvahs because it's lots of. Then peace will reign and the world will be beautiful. Okay, now give me a little beat on the table. Come on. Beautiful. Yeah, too bad we don't have those drummers here now. Well, I know it's been said about 1,000,000 times before, but change don't come easy, so you got to know the score. You're looking for a friend, a lifelong brother. You can't judge a book by looking at the cover. Said working together is the way to. That's how we survive through hista. Do the mitzvahs because it's lots of. Then peace will reign and the world will be. Said working together is the way to be. How we survive through hista. Do the mitzvahs because it's lots of. Peace will reign and the world will be. Said working together is the way to. Mazel tov. Woo! All right, give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. Well, they say that life is in the details, right? So, I leave Miami. Gabi was on my case for the last few weeks. You're sure you got the reservation, everything's all set. I get to the airport. On the way to the airport in Miami, well, this is yesterday, I leave work, 4 o'clock. I get to the awesome brachot of working with kids and young adults with special needs. So I leave work at 4, and then I get a text message that the flight was delayed from 6:40 to almost 8 o'clock. I said, wow, awesome, I get an extra hour. Usually I show up 5 minutes before the flight. So you can't do that on a long distance flight. I get to the airport, and I'm thinking, beautiful. Life is in the details. And the lady says to me, no, it's 8 o'clock a.m. This flight is delayed 13 hours. So that is Aerolíneas Argentinos, right? Yeah. And I made a quick call to Gabi. I said, Gabi, I'll be in tonight, somewhere between 7 and 8 o'clock. He said, no, you can't do that. So after a whole song and dance, we get to Buenos Aires. He puts me on American Airlines, and Baruch Hashem, we make it. So I just want to say to you, good evening, Buenos Aires. Woo! I want to share with you a story that a lot of times as teachers, we forget something. We forget, and by the way, if you're a parent, you're automatically a teacher, right? So that little label goes very well with the word parent. And besides all the other things that a parent does and a teacher does, if you were to get paid for all the things that you do, there was a study done, your salary would be like $400 million because you're a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief, you're the taxi driver, you're the conflict resolution specialist, right? You're on the job 24/7. Shabbat, you're also on the job, on the job. But we forget sometimes as teachers that a lot of times we learn more from our students than what we actually teach them. And I wanted to share with you two incidents that happened with me that, to this day, when I think about it, it just blows me away. I'm totally flipped out that these things actually happen. And it was just a few years ago, I walk into a supermarket in Miami, and there's a young Latino woman walking towards me, maybe in her 20s, mid-20s. And she comes over, she says, "Dr. Laz," she gives me a big hug, and the first thing I did was I looked around to make sure my rabbi wasn't there, because it's a community supermarket. And I said, I gave her a look like, "Do I know you?" And she said, "Yeah, remember, I was your student for 3 years." And I said, "Oh, I knew that." I really didn't. Well, I had her 10 years prior. 10 years had gone by. So I had her when she was 15. She's now 25. And she says to me, "I will never forget what you taught me." And I said, "What was that?" Now I'm thinking I had her 1 year for science, ladies and gentlemen, 1 year for history, and 1 year for math. 3 years. She was in a special needs program. This was a student who had learning and behavioral issues and emotional issues. Now let me just tell you one phenomena about her. She used to curse like a sailor. So every other word out of her mouth, like if you were to have a conversation with her, it would be something like, "Hi, how are you?" And she would say, "I'm beep," feeling beep, okay, beep, like beep. So every other word was censored. I always, when I think about it, she would have been a great pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean. So she would have made them look tame. And so this was one technique that I developed. When my students do something to get my goat, to curse, usually they want to find out what the teacher's reaction is. So I immediately turn to the board and I write it up on the board. And they give me a look like that. And then I say to this individual, which I said to her, I said, "Well, how do you spell that?" And she said, "I don't need to beep and know how to beep and spell that beeping word." And I said, "No, in my room you do." And she said, "Why do I have to know how to beep and spell it?" And I said, "Because you might want to write that to me in a letter one day, and I'm not going to be able to understand it unless you spell it properly." Now, I'm doing that thinking that 99.9% of the cases of students that I have to do these things, that technique works. They stop. With this person, it did not work. So here's what happened. It was a science class, and I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that I've had her for 3 years. So I'm thinking we have gone over 14,000 facts from math, science, and history. Thousands of facts. What's the one thing she said, "I'll never forget what you taught me"? And so when she said this to me in the supermarket, I said, "I taught you that?" And then she refreshed my memory, and so this was the incident. I brought in a cow's heart. Yeah, I went to the butcher and I asked if I could have a cow's heart. I was teaching about the heart and the function of the heart. And so you know, when you're working with students, the more experiential it is, the better. So she raises her hand. Right away I call on her. Wow, you know, they say catch your students being good, right? Very often we only catch them when they misbehave. So she raised her hand, like right away, "Oh wow, that's awesome." I called her, "Yes." And she says to me, "Do you believe that the Jews are the chosen people?" This is the middle of science class. So I said to her, "What's that got to do with the heart?" And she just ignored that. And she said, "Well," this is a Monday morning. She said, "I was in my church yesterday, and I heard my minister say that the Jews are the chosen people. So I said to my minister, well, I have a teacher who looks like Moses." Okay? He's got the beard, he wears this big thing on his head, he has these funny white strings hanging at his side, and he's got all the trimmings. And so, is it okay if I ask my teacher Moses? Right? So, you know, when you teach in a public school, which I do to this day, you got to be careful what your kids bring home. You can't start talking about religion and all that kind of stuff. And so I tried to get my way out of it, but after she said that, I had to respond. So she said, well, so he said I should ask you, Mr. Moses, so what's the story? So I remember learning in my yeshiva from Rabbi Lipsker. We had mentioned before about Morristown, Rabbi Lipsker, Rabbi Avram Lipsker was my Rosh Yeshiva in Morristown. And this was a yeshiva very much like a Chabad house. I had little or no background in Yiddishkeit. I was brought up Reform, conservative, I hate the labels, but I didn't keep Shabbat, I didn't keep kosher, I didn't do anything, I didn't put on tefillin. I put on tefillin one day for my bar mitzvah, and that was it, and not again for 10 years. So I didn't do any of that stuff, right? So that's how I grew up. But so in this yeshiva, which was like a Chabad house, I had asked that question. I said, what's this business with the chosen people? And so I remember Rabbi Lipsker looked at me, and what he said to me is what I told this young lady. And I said to her, in the Jewish religion, in our religion, we believe that everyone is chosen to do something constructive with his or her life. So I went around the room and I said, that means you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. I went to everybody in the room and I ended with, and you, because you're sitting about right where she was, and you. And she said, thank you. And that was that. It never came up again. 10 years later, I'm in the supermarket. She says to me, I'll never forget what you taught me. And that was it. That somehow she's in this world to do something good and constructive with her life. You know, like we all are, right? So she said she never forgot that lesson. And she has gone back to school. She was studying to be a nurse. She got married. She had, at this point, 2 kids. And she, by the way, she didn't curse once in that entire conversation. So we made progress. So I said to her, this is how God Almighty sometimes orchestrates things. I said to her, you know what? I'll never forget what you taught me. And she said to me, what was that? And I told her, and she said to me, I taught you that? No, like as if she was saying, I'm not fit to teach anybody, you know, especially back then. I was in a special needs class, and I was just a student, but I said, no, you taught me something very profound, and I will never, ever forget it. And I remember it every week. And she said to me, I can't believe it. And this was it. So I had a motley crew, 25 students with learning, behavioral, and emotional problems. Just to put you in context. What do I mean by that? I mean that I had to break up a fight of somebody who took a pencil and stuck it into a kid's forehead. And so as the pencil is sticking out of his forehead, blood's dripping down his nose, I had to break up that fight. And another kid who brought in a gun to school, some knives to school. And so it was, you know, a difficult class, as you can imagine. I'll share a story with you about that in a moment. But, so for this class, I knew I had to do something crazy. I had to be like the wildest, craziest Jew boy that they had ever seen. And so I said, you know what? If you all earn points, you earn enough points at the end of the month, I'm going to take you scuba diving. So of course they said, what's that? And I said, well, you know, you put the tank on your back, you go underwater, you're breathing, and you can hang out and look at the fish, and you know, it's awesome. You're underwater. I mean, it's an amazing thing, and you can breathe underwater. So the big kid in the class, you got to get the big kids in your class on your side. You got to get the big troublemakers, the mockers on your side. So this big kid, he says to me, I ain't going. I am not going scuba diving. So I said to him, why not? And he said to me, man, don't you ever watch any of the shark movies? And I'm like, so what's the problem? He says, well, it's always the black guy who gets it first. I said to him, come on, man, you know that's not true. So you know what? I rented like 5 or 6 shark movies that weekend, and it was true. They had like a token African-American scientist, and you knew he was either getting it first or second. So what could I say? I go back into class on Monday, and I say, you know what, look, here's what we'll do. We're gonna have a rope. I'll go first in line, and you all can be behind me. So if the shark comes, it's gonna come to me first. I know you're all gonna swim away and just leave me there, but this will give you time to get out of the water, safe and sound. So this is what I told the class, and he said to me, okay, you go first. Now I didn't tell them that if a shark is swimming along, the shark is not thinking, which one is first here? He's like looking like, if he's coming from the bottom, it's, I don't know, maybe it's the jewelry on the wrist or something, the bling in the mouth, you know, who knows what it is. But they ain't trying to figure out who's first, right? So, here's what happened. They earned the points, and I told them they have to work together as a class to earn the points, okay? So these are kids from 14 to 16 years old, 25 students. I'm taking them scuba like an idiot, right? So one kid says, all right, Dr. Laz, we earned our points. We are going, let's go this weekend. So I said, awesome, we're going this weekend. And he says, let's go Saturday. I said, I can't go Saturday. Why not? It's my Sabbath. So, well, I don't drive. We'll pick you up. No, you don't understand. I don't get into a car. We'll take a taxi. I don't get into a taxi. We'll take a bus. No, I don't get anything that has wheels on it. We'll take a horse and buggy. Seriously, you know what it means. The rabbis, whoever here is, you know, more, you know, is not driving on Shabbat. You know what that means. That means you're walking, right? So I said to them, no, I don't get into a, you know, a motorized vehicle. I don't do it, you know, I just don't do that on Shabbat, on the Sabbath. So they said, well, what do you do? So I said, well, you know, I go to my synagogue, and they said, well, that's like a church, right? I said, yeah, you know, that's like, you know, you go to pray, so we do our thing there. And they said, well, you go to the movies? And I said, nah. You go to the concerts? Nah. You go to the baseball game? Nah. You go bowling? No. You go shopping? No. You listen to the radio? No. And with each no response, I'm going like, no, no, I don't do that. No, I don't do that either. No. And every response was a no. They must have thought I had just flown in from a different dimension. Like I had come in from Mars, right? Or Jupiter, or maybe the Twilight Zone. And I had just landed here. And so everything they asked me was a no. I don't do this, I don't do that, I don't do this, I don't do that. Well, what do you do? They wanted to know, what do I do? So I said, well, I started to respond. And one kid says to me, you watch TV? I said, nope, don't watch TV. For how long? For how long don't you watch TV? I said, well, the Sabbath starts Friday night, and it ends Saturday when the stars come out. So that's about 25 hours. 25 hours without TV, he says to me, I would rather die. Because it's something that you just can't fathom, right? So, what do you do? So I said, okay, look it, we go to synagogue. When we come home, we have a meal. Well, what do you eat? What do you eat? I said, well, we first make a blessing on the cup of wine, then we make a blessing on bread, and then we'll have fish and maybe some salads, coleslaw, maybe some dips that you can dip your bread in, and then we'll have soup and some more dips. And then we get to the main course. That ain't even the main course. No, then we get to the main course and I tell them about the different kinds of, you might have different kinds of meats and potatoes and carrots and all this kind of stuff. I'm telling them the whole meal, and as I'm telling them, their mouths are going like this. And then I said, you know what? We do this again Saturday when we come home from our synagogue. So this girl, this was still while she was in this condition, she stands up, the one who I'm talking to in the supermarket, she stands up and she says in front of the class,
Holy beep and beep. Dr. Laz got a holiday once a week.
And I said, thank you. Because my attitude was, as I was telling them, you know, I didn't grow up with this stuff, right? I didn't really experience this till I was a college student. I was 23. Had no idea that people were even doing this kind of thing, right? By the way, everybody said it was going to be really hard for me to do that, to keep kosher. It was not a problem at all. Everything I bought, I remember when I first started keeping kosher, everything I bought had the circle with the R in the middle. That was Orthodox rabbis. Seriously, or so I thought. Well then one day, I promise you this is true, I bought a pair of socks. And on the socks it had a circle with the R in the middle. Now I don't know if that applies in Buenos Aires, but in the States, that means registered trademark. So, I went into the store, I bought any kind of gum I wanted, any kind of cakes that I wanted, any kind of food that I wanted. It all had the circle with the R, which I thought was Orthodox rabbis. So, then of course I called my rabbi, I said, is there such a thing as kosher socks? And he said to me, explain yourself. And I said, well, I know you're supposed to look for these symbols. And so he said, yeah, let me enlighten you. The circle should have a K in the middle or a U, and that R just means registered trademark. So if you went out and bought a slab of bacon, it would have the circle with the R in the middle. Anyhow, so I said to her at the supermarket, speaking of food, I said to her, that's a lesson that you taught me. I was feeling sort of like almost ashamed about my Shabbat. Like, I don't do this, I don't do that, I don't do this, I don't do that. But you put it in such an awesome perspective that we got a holiday once a week. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would encourage you, talk about wanting to influence your kids, and that your kids should have the beauty of Yiddishkeit and have the strength of Yiddishkeit. I heard a great line recently when I was in Australia. And the rabbi is the principal of the school, and he said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So this gives kids, that framework, which I didn't have. And so when I grew up, I looked everywhere else in the world except my own backyard. So yeah, I went to Hare Krishna, and I went to Zen Buddhism, and I studied Christianity. And I studied all these things. I had no idea that these awesome things were in my own backyard. No, until I took the course, University of Buffalo, with the Chabad rabbi. I want to share with you another story that when I first started teaching. This was in Buffalo, New York, in the Buffalo, New York public schools. And I was studying for my doctorate in urban education. So I was supposed to know what I'm doing. Right? And I knew when my kids walked in, when I say kids, these are 14, 15-year-olds, I knew I was supposed to say, hey, how you doing? How are you? How was your summer? What's going on? What's your name? But all we did was go like this. They walked into my room, we went like this. The school was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community School in Buffalo, New York. All black inner city school. I had 3 white kids, 3 Caucasian kids who were bussed in, because this was the only school in the city that had a program for special needs. Second week of school, a kid comes up to me and he says to me, Dr. Laz, guess what I brought into school today? So I said, I don't know, Phil, what'd you bring in? He says, I brought my piece. So I said to him, a piece of what? He says to me, man, you don't know what a piece is? I said, no, your piece of cake, your piece of paper. I had no idea. Anybody here know what a piece is? Raise your hand. Yes, Rabbi Bolton. Indeed. Anybody else? What's the piece, my brother? Yes. So I didn't know. And it was a great line. He says to me, you don't know what a piece is? Where you been brought up? And so he says to me, well, it's in my locker. So I went to his locker with him. We open up the locker, and he says, well, it's in my jacket pocket. And I feel in his sweatshirt pocket. And I said to him, is this for real? And he says to me, duh, because we look like that. So I said, Phil, I know you didn't bring it in to intimidate me. It wasn't like, okay, Laz, I either get my all A's this semester or it's time to meet your maker. So he said, it was like show and tell time. So I said, Phil, I know you're not going to appreciate this now, but I'm going to save your backside here. Take it home. I know you're not going to throw it out. Here's a note. He lived 2 blocks away from school. And he went home with it. Okay, so I just wanted to give you an idea who Phil is. Now, you know that famous line in the Pirkei Avot, "Talmidai yoter mekulam." I've learned a lot from my teachers, more from my colleagues, but most from my students. So, I'm sitting at my desk with Phil, and we're doing a reading lesson. And I take out a banana, and I start eating it. This is this tough inner city kid who brought in his piece to school. He says to me, "Mr. Laz, what are you doing?" And I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm sorry. Oh, you want some?" He says to me, "You forgot to say your blessing." I said to him, "Phil, I know what I just did. I said my blessing. I peeled the banana. I'm sorry, would you like a piece?" And this is what this tough inner city kid said to me. He said, "Mr. Laz," I didn't have my doctorate then. He says, "Mr. Laz, I'm sitting right next to you. I didn't hear one word. How do you expect the good Lord to hear you? You should say it again." So you know what? I said that bracha again. And these kinds of things are something that just occurs all the time working. This is a big bracha. Let's, all the teachers of the school, and of all teachers who are here, please stand up. Come on, don't be shy. If you're a teacher, stand up. Let's give a round of applause. Come on. All teachers, stand up. Yeah. All right, now can we have all the parents stand up? Parents, come on, stand up. Parents and grandparents. All right, give yourselves a round of applause, folks. Woo. All right, if you know the song, sing with me, okay? And by the way, what does Lubavitch mean? Who knows? It's like the village or the city of love, right? Like Liba, Lubavitch. So this was something that I learned from them, and then of course this became a great hit. If you know the song, how many of you listen to American music? You know this one? Ay, 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 canta y no llores. I had to learn something in Spanish for you, okay? But that's not what I was going to do for you. But that's a great message. Canta y no llores, right? But see if you know this one. I'd like you to sing with me. All right, get your hands clapping. Crown Heights style in this song, all right? You know, we live in Crown Heights for 13 years. Oh, well, I woke up this morning, got the message from above, said, reach out to your neighbor with a little bit of love. I'm walking down the street, everyone I meet, extend the right hand for peace throughout the land. And don't worry, no, about a thing. Feel alright, be alright. Alright, let's try this one. Because you know, I always, whenever I think of the Chabad rabbis, I always think of the Beatles, because they are like the Beatles of the Jewish world. Now, you know, they practice love, preach love and light. We got one time for one more? All right. Hey, this song is for you, okay? If you know the song, sing with me. This was a song that I wrote together with Tuvia Bolton, and it was stolen by the Beatles. Nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Nothing you can make that can't be made. Nowhere you can save that can't be saved. Nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. Hashkafa practice. Well, it's easy. All you need is love. Everybody, come on. All you need is love. Everybody. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. Come on now. All you need is love. Yeah. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. All right, we'll do one more together here. And for this one, I need your help on. Now, you know with what's going on in Eretz Yisrael, we have to sing a song about Israel. And I actually, why do we still have to keep doing this? Got time for one more, Gabi? Yeah? Okay. Okay. This is a word from my sponsor here. Now, he bought my ticket, so I have to behave. When Menachem Begin was prime minister, that's how far back the song goes. So I sent this song to him, and he said he loved it. I have a letter that I got from him. He said, but I have to do it in Hebrew. But we're going to do this one in English. And, you know, we believe in peace. You know, we didn't start this last battle, right? We didn't start shooting rockets into Gaza. You know, it's only when we start defending ourselves that a lot of people in the world freak out. Well, I say, too bad. So, a little song called It's Our Land. And yeah, you have to stand up today, you know, defend Israel, the only democracy in that whole area, right? So be proud. So whenever you hear me say Abraham, if you could just respond and say Abraham. Let's try it. Abraham? And if you hear me say our land, just say our land. Our land? Beautiful. Abraham? Now say it like you mean it. Abraham?
Abraham.
Our land. Beautiful. Don't call me a god. Don't call me a thief. If little Yisrael gives you lots of grief, don't go complaining to me that we stole your land. Belongs to every Jew since Abraham. 'Cause it's our land. It's our land. It belongs to every Jew since Abraham. Beautiful. Don't raise your hand. You won't get a grain of sand. Belongs to every Jew since Abraham. We'll just look up in the Chumash in the very first Rashi. Explains it all so that me clearly. Hashem is the boss. He can do what he can. He gave to us this holy land. 'Cause it's our land. It's our land. Oh, it belongs to every Jew since Abraham. teeny parcel that's about as big as New Jersey. So what are they freaking out about? Belongs every juice and Sarah. Oh, don't raise your hand. Get a great sand. Belongs every juice and Sarah. Thank you very much. God bless. Give it up for the Chabad rabbis and the school that you got here. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever you can do to support the shluchim here and the school, you are truly making the leaders and the shluchim of our next generation. And you're going to have awesome, happy kids. So, love you all. Thank you. God bless.